What's going on, everybody? It's Ryan here, and today we are going to talk about three stocks. We're going to talk about three top stocks that I look at, that I trade, that I invest in. I actually made this is the second video of this series. I made a first video back in December, and I'm going to tell you about how the results went and kind of how the returns turned out, and just kind of the direction of kind of what happened to these stocks. The stocks we're going to be talking about is number one, Apple. We're going to talk about AT&T, ticker symbol T, and then we're going to talk about Tesla. And it's interesting, sort of looking back at sort of what I thought happened versus what's happening now. So let's go ahead. Let's switch over to my little screen here, and let's take a look at what's going on here. So let's start with Apple. So back in this was actually November that I made these comments that between 108, in this case I put 106 here, but between 108 and 106 was sort of like a good support point for Apple. Excuse me. So this is a good support point for Apple because I felt like you could just see right here, it's pretty clear around this gap area. So 108, 106, right? Generally what happens is when a stock goes down, it wants to trade towards this gap or gaps in the trading range. Maybe actually right here, there's another gap there. And you can see how it fills this gap, meaning that as it goes up, so it gaps up and then it falls back down, and then it ends up right in this range right here. So like looking at this and taking consideration, I said 108, 110 would be a good spot to get in here. And then maybe a time to sell would be about 120. And you have to keep in mind that when I was looking at this chart, it was back around November 9th or November 10th. So it was right around here that I was looking at this chart from my last video. So you can kind of see this is what I was looking at from back a couple months ago or a couple weeks ago. So you can see this is like what it looks like. Okay, it's going to be in this range or this range. Well, kind of continuing to move forward, as you kind of see the chart change, you can see how it finally broke right here, this 120. Well, it broke 120 here also, but then it broke again here. And usually what happens is another resistance or another, what's that word? A resistance usually will turn into support. Let's go see what happens. And it actually becomes support. So you can see how it breaks this resistance line and then becomes support line right there, right? So you can kind of see how it does that, and then it touches it, and then as you can see, it continues to travel up and then all the way kind of, this is where we're at right now. So kind of looking at this chart again, part of the reason why I'm making these videos, or this video, is just to sort of go over my thinking process of how I'm going to make my trades on Monday. And looking at these three stocks, focusing on these three stocks because it just makes it easy for me to think. And you can kind of see there's really strong. So there's a double top here. You can see there's some pretty strong a case for some strong resistance right here. So it looks like it may end up making its way up here, but you can see earnings are coming up here on January 28th as we head into earnings season. So, if you bought around here, maybe, or a lot of people may have bought around here, so they may want to sell before earnings because sometimes earnings can really drive a stock downwards. But lately, it seems like earnings have been like driving stocks upwards. But look at this new chart here and where we're at right now, I look at this as a new support line. So if I wanted to be a long-term investor for Apple, I would end up buying more, maybe around the 128 mark. If it travels down, or better yet, get back here down to 120. It's unlikely to get back where I mentioned here, this 108 area. I mean, it'll get there, but it might take a couple years for some radical event when the market turns. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. There's really not much for me to do here in this particular situation. I think really what I want to do is just kind of hold, right? Until maybe if it goes to 120, I'll probably buy some more. And that's kind of it. So let's go move on to AT&T. So looking at AT&T, again, keep in mind that when I looked at this chart last time, it was around November 9th. And then we just want to see what happened from November 9th on. Let's go see here. So November 9th was about right here. So interestingly enough, I made this video when the stock was hammered pretty badly. And you kind of see, like, could it go any lower? And if I were to zoom out even more, remember, so just November 9th here, you can kind of see it was pretty low in the trading range. Like if I zoom out even more, you can kind of see like where it was. Like, so it was pretty on the low end of the trading range. Like if you bought here, you know, and you held, I mean, you're probably going to be fine. I mean, if you wanted to wait until the like 126, this next resistance point, you probably were never going to see it. It actually traded below that right here, you can see. But let's go zoom in again and just see what happens in the stock. It actually, what happened, literally the following day, it gapped up right there. So November 9th or 6th or 9th, and then it gapped up. Right, I can't remember. I think I made the video on the 6th. I can't honestly remember. But then since then, it's just sort of shot up like this really period of time. And there's sort of an interesting thing that happens with this stock is because it's a high yielding, high dividend stock, pays about 8, 9 to 10% a year in dividends. You know, what happens is this unusual behavior that happens a lot of the time where the stock will go down near when dividend gets issued. And then after dividend gets issued, no one is interested in the stock anymore. So then it has to wait for it to kind of go back up again. So dividend gets issued. Then what ends up happening is the stock starts to travel higher up again because, well, no interest because the next dividend isn't for the next quarter. So people wait. And you can see that there's a dividend going to be issued here or announced on January 8th. You know, this is basically, that's essentially 2 days earlier from this video being made, because today is January 10th. So you kind of see how as it gets closer to here, once this gets issued, this stock will probably travel down lower. And what will end up happening is a good chunk of people that are sort of playing the dividend game, like buy and sell the dividend, what they're doing is they're just going to get out of the stock and get back in. And that's sort of what I'm doing also in some situations. So what I talked about in my last video, I saw this resistance point or support point of 2870, which is about right here, or close to here anyway. So you can see there's a clear resistance point here. So if I wanted to be a long-term holder, buying it now is actually not a bad idea. Or maybe I'll wait to travel lower. But you got to remember, like right here is $29, and 2870 is basically 30 cents less, right? But there might be a chance, an opportunity to buy it here, right? Maybe it gets back down to there. But like in these periods of time, it's really hard to say if it will get back down there, right? But we zoom out, we take a look at kind of what's happening here. You know, here's a solid support line around resistance line at $30.58. You know, I had a really good chunk of capital invested in this. So something, you know, looking back on this chart, I wish I could have sold here. But I mean, I was kind of just sitting pretty, just kind of like long-term holder. So you take a look at this. There's that. I don't think there's really a whole lot to say here, other than the fact that as it travels closer to here, this support line, it might be a good idea to buy here, or maybe I would buy some more. Like if I had no holdings in AT&T and I wanted to get into AT&T, I would probably buy a few shares here, and then as it goes down, I'll buy more shares, and it goes down, I'll buy more shares. And that's how I look at this. I don't think there's a whole lot to do here. In fact, I think I would personally, for me, I think I want to rotate into more higher yielding stocks or higher, more stocks that move a little bit more. But honestly, it's like I feel like to me, right in the middle of the trading range, right? So you can see right here, this is what, $26 right here, right? So you can see right there's a spot there, $26.50, and then up here is, you know, 31. Maybe we can use 33. So from 29 up to 33 is $4, and then from 29 to 26 is $3. So, you know, so the probability is like if you buy this, it will probably go down more. You buy more, and then it'll probably turn back around and get back up into the 30s again. But it's hard to say. You got earnings coming, and the last time earnings occurred, like nothing crazy happened. It looks like they were a little bit below expectations, and then the stock dropped, and then just went back up, and then later on, I guess people lost interest. Then here, I guess maybe, I don't know exactly what happened here, you know, so it depends on how much you're into fundamental analysis. I'm really more into technical analysis, as you can tell. So maybe there was some announcement or some mention of, I think it might have been Disney Plus, like subscriptions that caused the stock to go down. It's really hard to say because I don't really know it right now. So looking at this here, so where it's at now, I'm almost of the opinion to sort of like sell or not sell, but buy or hold. The only reason why I'm saying I'm going to sell is because I want to hold more cash. The dividend's already been announced, so I would just wait for the stock to go a little bit lower. But see, the thing is, like, depending on how active of a trader you are with these stocks, $29 to 28. I mean, what's the math on that? 28, 28, 20. It's probably like 3%. So it's about 3.4% drop is what you're looking at. So maybe you wait for it to go down 3.4% or at least 2% before buying some more here. I feel mixed in here because I kind of want to be more in cash. What I do is I actually use AT&T is sort of like a kind of like a bank, like a savings account. So I figure instead of putting in a savings, I'll just put in AT&T. And when you have the stock this low, or near the bottom, or not the bottom of the range, but the bottom half of the range, it seems a good idea just to park some cash there. So for the most part, I'll probably always keep some money in the AT&T and then rotate money in and out, sort of like a savings account, right? So when I find a good deal or a better opportunity, I'll sell some of my AT&T to buy something else. That's sort of how I'm playing AT&T. All right, so now let's talk about Tesla because it's always a little bit more interesting for everybody. And we take a look at here. And remember, I looked at this stock chart back in around November 9th or 10th. And let's go take a look here. So November, sorry here. All right, so November 9th and 10th, you can see that the stock was about right here. This is the daily. This is the daily. So it was about right here, right? So you can see where the ranges is. And I said in my last video, I said, Tesla is a good buy at 163 right here. Because there's this little resistance point here. I think I may have said maybe even 328, but see how this section here, I'm just gonna draw another line. See how this resistance eventually becomes support. So what happens is the stock tries to hit this 336 mark and then fails, goes down, goes back up, fails, goes down, and then goes up and then breaks through. And then it trades up, and then it eventually goes back down and tests this. The previous resistance becomes a support. So looking at the stock chart back in November 10th, November 9th, I said this was a good place to kind of buy it right here, or when I wanted to get in. But I really felt like because of the way the stock moves, I mean the likelihood that that's going to happen just seems very low, and that's sort of kind of been my thinking right now. So I kind of prefer not. I mean, if I want to get into the stock, which I do, or get more into the stock, I just don't. So, and I can't remember exactly what my trading history was, but I think I just ended up buying some shares. And let's go see what happens over the next couple of days. I think, I wrote some other lines here. So 391 was a good spot to probably buy some. And then another spot would have been 406, or basically where it's at right now, right? Because what happens if you look at the chart and how it's going, it's sort of like it goes up and then it consolidates and then goes up and then it goes down and goes up and goes down, then it just starts to consolidate. And it's sort of like what that's doing when you see this consolidation, it's sort of like a spring, like it's like a spring that's kind of getting tighter and tighter, and then it's going to break either to the downside or to the upside. So if we kind of move this more over, you kind of see how it trades down and then it gaps up. And I don't know the reason why it went up here, but it went up a lot. And I honestly cannot remember if I got in or not this time. I do have a decent amount of shares in there. I think I don't remember what my average cost is. I think what I ended up doing, I'm looking up on my phone. I should have it connected next time, but think or swim. Okay, so my average cost on here is $643. So that's my average trading price on Tesla. So, oops, sorry. So I bought around 643. So where was the 643? I think I capitulated like around here. I was like, okay, forget it. I'm going to get in. So because basically I was talking about the stock in the video a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't think I'm going to wait. And I ended up not buying any, right? So then I missed this move all the way up to here. And then it goes up to the 643, which is, I probably bought it around here. And I think what happened was I just saw this like consistent like new support line that was being created here. So I was gonna like, okay, I missed it here last time and here last time. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get in here. And as you can see, it just shot up. And it's almost no rhyme or reason exactly what's gonna happen to the stock. It's just such an explosive stock. So, looking at this consideration now, it really just looks overextended, right? Because it's right now $880. That's freaking crazy. So it being $880, the question is, when is it a good time to get in? And then again, there's a huge gap here. So, this gap will probably be filled. It'll probably do the same thing it did here, right? And then it'll fall back down. I don't know if I could draw some arrows on here. Don't know how to use this software yet, but it's probably going to trade back down to here, right? And it's going to either go up and down again. Maybe it might actually go down to here. It just depends on what happens to the market, right? So there's a lot that can happen. Actually, it'll be a huge drop, so probably not. Less likely. It's probably going to be more around here. So maybe there's a gap to fill here, maybe right there. So this little gap here might get filled. So basically, the next time they get into Tesla might be around the 700s. Probably what I would do is if I see a huge drop one day, I'll just buy a couple shares, and that's what I would think about doing. But again, with how much it's overextended, my position in Tesla is sort of large enough where I really don't want to get in unless it gets really, really hammered. But I am a long-term holder. So those are the three stocks. I'm going to make another video on this probably in another couple weeks. It just depends. I want to be able to sort of be consistent with this. I want to be consistent with making these videos because I find these videos interesting. They're not really well polished, as you can tell. There's really no editing. And I kind of want to find out like if it really, the truth is I'm making these videos for myself because, the first video I made was sort of explaining support lines and resistance lines. And now the second video is more like, okay, today's Sunday. What am I going to do Monday? So that's sort of what I was thinking. That's the thinking that's going in my head. So I want to go ahead and just decide like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do analysis, do it live. And it looks like not a lot of opportunities here. They're not like standout buys or anything. It's really more like I'm going to rotate out of AT&T, and then maybe let me take a look at this again. I want to see this Apple here. Apple has earnings here, so it might be a good idea to sell some here. I don't know. Because maybe it may trade up towards earnings, right? So then I'll sell around 138. AT&T has earnings. Again, this is more like a savings account. Is how I sort of interpret it. Tesla is earnings is here. Probably what will happen is it will probably just continue to go up slowly because it made a huge run up already, and then after earnings, it's probably gonna take a hit. So it might be a good idea just to sell some positions here, and I think that I may just do that. So maybe I'll do another video later in the week so I can pay attention to this closely. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys all on the next video.